Right. Right, so we're back live again. Just because I am getting a little bit stuck for time at the moment. With work, the gym, different projects that are going on as well. So I was going to film this one upstairs, but I've decided that it's probably a little bit too hot. It's nice and cold down in the cellar. So I thought it'd be better to film it down here again. Plus, upstairs looks like a bomb's hit it. The fish room's all over the place because I've started this new paludarium project. So, as you can imagine, that's a very messy process. It's 7 foot long and 7 foot high. So there's a lot of building materials. There's loads of offcuts all over the place. The fish room's an absolute mess. But building that and all this time being consumed is what's brought me to the topic for this video, really. So, I mean, how do you handle multiple tanks? Multiple tank syndrome is something that I do suffer with at the moment. I think when I was in my old house, it was keeping it at bay because I obviously had no room to put any tanks. But now I've moved house, I've got all this space, and every single corner and crevice, I'm just trying to cram a tank in. And it's dead easy to do, but you do want to be mindful when you're doing it because of the levels of maintenance that's going to come with it, which is something that I'm feeling right now off the back of getting all these tanks. So obviously you've got to feed all your tanks, you've got to clean all your tanks, you've got to do water changes on all your tanks. You can't abuse them. I think it's a little bit easier if you've got, multiple tanks and they're planted setups. Or their sort of ecosystem setups, because you don't have to do a great deal of water changes on the tanks. As they mature, the algae tends to stay manageable, so you're not having to do a lot of glass cleaning because all the plants are sucking all the nitrates. Everything that would feed the algae, the plants are out competing it. So if you've got multiple planted tanks, I think having multiple tank syndrome is a little bit easier to manage because you can get away with a few things. But when it's African cichlids, there's no plants. I'm getting algae on all these tanks. I'm getting algae on the rocks. I've got to keep loads of different fish separate. So, and then I've got to do water changes on all these systems as well. And bear in mind, I've got 1, 2, 3 open top tanks. Granted, this is on one system, which I really need to get lids on those, because in this weather, when it's like 30 degrees outside, they lose so much water so quick. So that's another job. I'm having to top up all the tanks as well as doing water changes on them as well. So if you're thinking, when there is going to come a point when you get into this hobby when you're going to want another tank or you're going to want a bigger tank. Just factor in how much work it's going to be before you do it, because I'm getting a bit to the point now where I'm at my limit with the tanks that I've got, along with my job and the gym and the family. I get very limited days off. Doing a water change on the big tank upstairs, so if I do a full maintenance day on that, so clean all the glass, siphon the sand, do a 50% water change, that can take me the best part of 2 hours. Doing the Mbuna display, again, the best part of an hour to do that one. And then this system is a little bit topsy-turvy. So when you're trying to do a water change on this, you've got to be careful that the sump doesn't flood on it. So this can take an hour or two as well. So yeah, I mean, it's stuff you've got to factor in. And now I'm starting, as you all know, I've got the 7 foot stand upstairs, which I've started building a paludarium for, which is taking a lot of time. So I'm going to do a little bit of a video on that one when I'm doing the paludarium. What grinds me a little bit with paludarium build videos, and I fell for this, and you want to be careful with it. If you've never set up a paludarium before and you're watching paludarium tutorials and builds, usually you'll find them on TikTok and YouTube. TikTok, it's condensed into a 30-second clip. YouTube, usually condensed into about a 20-minute video. If you've ever made a paludarium before, it is very difficult. It is a lot of work, and the materials you use to build one are actually quite expensive. If you've got a tiny little thing, then it's not so bad. But if you've got, if you've got a big tank and you want to do it on a little bit of a larger scale where you're going to get a wow factor out of it, then you really would be. They make it look very easy, and it genuinely isn't. I've built a few paludariums before, and they've been successful, but they're very finicky. So you're spraying your foam on, then you've got to wait for it to set. Then you paint your silicone onto the foam. Then you've got to carve the foam. It makes an absolute mess. Then you've got to paint your silicone onto the foam. Then you've got to wait for pad your stuff down, wait for that to set. So, you're waiting 2 or 3 days in between parts of this build. And you're going to run into problems. You're going to make mistakes on it. There's going to be things that you've not measured correctly. And it can turn into a very long process. So I know that one upstairs is going to take me the best part of 5 to 6 weeks. Just for me to complete the background and the stand and the build and how it's going to be boxed in. So by the time that's done, that should be where more or less when the new tank arrives and they deliver that, and then I can just slot it straight in and start getting things going. But don't underestimate it when you watch these tutorials. Don't get me wrong, anyone can go out and be creative and make a paludarium. I'm not saying you have to be a certain level of something to create one of those things, because you really don't. But you have to be patient. It's not just something that just pops up like a fish tank. You can chuck your sand in, have a play around in the tank, get your scape right, and off you pop, you're going. But with a paludarium, there's loads of things you've got to consider. Your lighting, your plant placement, how the water's going to run down the backboard and the side walls. Is everything waterproof? So if all the wood that you're using on the build, is it all waterproof? Is it watertight? Have you got enough airflow? Have you got enough space in the tank at the bottom? What animals can you put in it? And then buying these materials as well, for normal people like you and me, when you see these tutorials, it's just, we'll pop out and everything comes in a box and everything gets done and dusted all at once. This build I've got upstairs, I've been buying these pieces for it bit by bit. And there's stuff that I'm going to have to wait till next month to buy to go on to that paludarium build. So it's not all just a 20-minute, let's nip to the shop, stick a tank and Bob's your uncle, you've got a paludarium. It's a long process, because the only reason I warn people about it is because you can commit to something like that, where you think it's a good idea, you start doing it, and then it sort of dawns on you how long it's going to take you to do it, how much it's going to cost, and then you're sort of stuck in a position where you've already spent money, and then you're going to have to go out and spend more money to finish the job. You're going to have to find time to do it. So just make an educated decision before you start it. Because the one that I'm building upstairs now, that is getting to it's starting to do my head in a bit, where it's becoming unenjoyable. But the reason I'm still doing it is because I know how much I'm going to enjoy it once it's done, and it's something a little bit different in the fish room upstairs. I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on me building that paludarium. It's like I've said in previous videos, I love African cichlids. They are my thing, and they always will be. They're not going anywhere. But that paludarium, that scape, is just something that I really enjoy. So it's something that I really enjoy to watch. I like watching all the plants grow in. I think it's a different side. It's a different side of the hobby that gives you some extra bits that African cichlids don't, aka the plants, the ease of maintenance when it comes to water changes and stuff like that. So a lot of the plants, they're rooted in, they'll absorb nitrates. You can have a little bit more, little bit of a different variety of fish in there as well. So I'm quite excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. And it's like I said on the last live, it's going to give me more opportunities to go to fish shops and shop for different things, where I can go different places and film places that are really good that might not necessarily sell African cichlid. So it's a win-win that you're getting out of it. So there's a lot of people doing fish shop tours at the moment. There's a lot of fairly new channels doing some really good ones. I mean, I don't know if anyone's watched Adam Seven Fish Tanks. His shop tours are mint. I love watching him. He's really good at it. He builds a good relationship with the guys that are in there. So yeah, I mean, some of the shops I've seen him go to are shops that I would like to go to, but at the same time, I don't want to travel that far and go into a shop, film the shop, and not really buy anything. I think it's a little bit rude, isn't it? But yeah, hopefully when that's set up, we can start going out and shopping, doing planted setups. I don't know. When it comes to paludariums, if anyone's ever set one up before, can you set up a planted system in the aquatic side of it? So I mean, how dense can you go on the plant growth in the actual aquatic bit? I mean, I would like to have a fully planted tank at the bottom of it. I think that'd look mint, but at the same time, it's going to be open top, and I've done planted tanks on an open top system before, and it's absolutely drank CO2 like it's going out of fashion. So I don't really want a repeat of that. I think most of them that I've seen, and most of the ones that I've done in the past, have just been sort of a sandbank bottom with some relatively easy growing plants in there, like Anubias and Java ferns and things like that. Stuff that epiphytes that will grab onto rocks and logs and stuff, not necessarily things that you have to bury in the substrate. So I'm still thinking of ideas for it. I'm also going to need as well, that room gets pretty cold upstairs, so it's choosing the right plants for it. I don't want to really have to heat the room because it's a big room. It's got high ceilings. So I'd rather have some plants that have got a little bit of tolerance to the cold. I'm going to heat obviously the aquarium. It's going to have a misting system, but that mist isn't going to hold that heat. It's just going to dissipate straight away when it comes out and waters the plants. So if anyone's got any suggestions for some cold water stuff, then let me know. So Chef Steve. So no plants that need light. So never. Yeah, Steve. I mean, in all honesty, I don't really put my lights on all that often on the cichlid tank upstairs. The only time I really have them on is when I'm filming in the day. I'll stick the lights on just because they don't look very aesthetic if you're filming them with the lights off in the day. So they'll be on for an hour or two then. And I only film once a week, so usually I'll have a time period when the lights come on, anywhere from, it comes on at 5 o'clock and then they go off at 11 o'clock. So I've just got the light schedule for when I'm at home from work and I'm enjoying the tank. And in all honesty, it's not too bad. I don't get a lot of algae on the glass. It tends to be the rocks more than anything. And it's not green algae. It's like the diatoms that keep popping up. So it's not a massive problem. But I think it's because I've got them 2 AI hydras on that big tank upstairs. I think it's just too much light for a system with no plants because they're meant for growing coral with. So I might replace those lights. I might use those lights on the paludarium. So it's giving a lot of light onto the living wall on the back, and then I might replace them with some pendant lights on the actual African cichlid, see if it reduces some of that algae. So yeah, with the paludarium, Steve, what my plan is with that is I'm gonna sump it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill the tank, and then under the paludarium I'm gonna use a sump. And I had that in mind with regards to the evaporation and the water level going down in the tank. If I have a sump with an overflow, what that means is if there's any evaporation, the water level will only go down in the sump. So the water level will always stay in the same place on the paludarium. If I get any evaporation, I'll see it in the sump. And then when it gets too low to a certain point, what I'll notice is air bubbles starting pumping into the water. And that's when I know when to top it up, because that's what happens with the 6 footer upstairs. The water level's always the same because it's sumped, and all the evaporation happens underneath. So that's how I'm planning to tackle that problem with the paludarium upstairs. The only thing is I was planning on using the sump and the return section as a source for the misting system on the plants. But what I'm a bit concerned about is that going to drink all the water out of my system really quick, or is it going to run back down the wall and go into the tank, or is it just going to get absorbed by everything? So, I mean, it's going to be trial and error. I mean, that's the thing with paludariums. Once you finish building them as well, another thing that can take a little bit of time is all the testing. So testing all the systems work, the functionalities, the flow rates, what the plants are reacting to, sticking moss into certain places, and just, you have to tamper with it and just get things right. Yeah, plecos are good. Really good algae eaters. I tell you what, they absolutely blast diatom algae, plecos. So whenever you get them diatom blooms, they just obliterate it. Really, really good cleanup fish. The only thing is with me is I don't like. I don't know what it is, but I'm not a massive fan of mixing biotopes. So what I mean is, if I've got fish from, if I've got fish from Southeast Asia, I'll just, for some reason, something in me, but it's like OCD, I have to have just fish from Southeast Asia in the tank. The same with Amazonian setups, African setups. I have to get it as biotope accurate as I can, which is why I won't have, I've got a Victorian cichlid in the African cichlid tank upstairs, and for some reason it was mixed in with a load of peacocks. I actually thought it was a hap, a Malawi hap, when I first bought it, and it's ended up being a Victorian cichlid. I don't want to get rid of it, but it's really getting on my nerves that it's in there. And it's the same with the Buccochromis as well in the Mbuna tank. Although they are both from Lake Malawi, because it's not really an accurate biotope for it, it's bugging me. It's really annoying me that it's in that tank, but it's an absolute nightmare to catch it because of all the rot work. And I don't want to take the rot work apart either, unless I really need to, unless it gets to a point where, that hap's doing a lot of damage. I want to try and avoid taking the rot work out, because I spent a lot of time scaping it and making all the caves and getting it to a place where I thought the Mbunas would enjoy it, which they seem to be doing. But it'd be a shame to destroy it, because while that tank's full, it's just going to be impossible for me to replicate it again, I think. I've done it before with reef tanks where I've had to strip rocks out, and you can never quite replicate what you've made again. I mean, it could make it better, but I'm quite happy with how it is, in all honesty. But yeah, I mean, even that Mbuna tank, I mean, the thing is upstairs is it's getting a bit bulky for me up there, because they're very big tanks, and I always, what I do now is any display tank that I get, I will I'll always try and get it as deep as possible from front to back, because that room that you get from the front glass to the back glass, I think the deeper back that goes, I think the better you can make your tank look. But what it's doing is it's causing a lot of boxiness upstairs, and it's turning a big room into a corridor. So I'm thinking that the tank I've got the crayfish in, I'm probably going to bring down here. This eye biter, I'm going to try and introduce him, because I've not got the females in here anymore. After, I don't know if you watched the last video, but after that footage that I caught on the night vision, I've decided to abandon the Malawi eye biter breeding project for now, because there was a lot of fish getting beaten up, and even the smaller one that was left in here, still alive, but he beat that one to shreds as well. So I've decided to abandon it for now. I'm going to try and introduce this male Malawi eye biter back into the display tank. I'm absolutely terrified to do it because of how he's been behaving in here and how he was behaving in the tank upstairs before I moved him. I mean, it's a lot busier in that tank, so he probably won't be as boisterous. But it's really concerning me. So I'm gonna get him in that tank upstairs, and then what I want to try and do is bring the Mbuna colony downstairs into this tank, and then, I hate to say it, but kind of, close that 3-footer down upstairs, and try and put that into storage for when those Mbunas that I've got do get a little bit bigger. I mean, it's not going to be long before that happens, but I think this would be a nice little setup. They've got the length on the tank, so, and all that depth that's in that other one, so it's 2 feet deep as well. All that space at the top, those Mbunas, they don't really utilise it. They just stick to the rocks at the bottom. So what I'm thinking of doing is trialling them in this tank, seeing how they get on in here, and then maybe give myself a little bit more space upstairs with the 3-footer. I think what's making me feel like that at the moment is that 7-foot stand that I had on the back wall. Now I've actually started getting stuff on it. It's closing the room in a bit. Whereas I thought, before it didn't feel as bad, but now I've got the backboard on there and the paludarium start getting built. It's starting to feel a little bit more claustrophobic. So, it's asking questions that I'm asking myself questions as to, do I really need to have this tank up here? I mean, this is the thing with multiple tank syndrome as well. I think once you get that bug and it bites you, you can set up a tank. Once you've set it up, obviously you're happy with it, you want to look after the fish, but then you want to set up something else and you want to try something a little bit different. So it's my favourite part about doing tanks is just building it and scaping it and getting it to a place where it is really nice to look at, which the Mbuna tank is, but I don't think it's the right tank for them. I think something like this, for their size at the moment anyway, would be a little bit better for them. And they could breed in here as well. And we've got the breeding tanks, what we can put them into. I'm just really indecisive. I mean, that's the problem. Malawi trout, Steve, if you get any Malawi trout, mate, you need to let me know, because that's another one that I've been looking for a long time. I was going to buy some. I know there was a breeder selling them on eBay, but eBay have stopped people selling fish on there, which, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I can understand it to a degree. I mean, I've bought fish off eBay before, and they don't come as responsibly packaged as they do when you get them from a shop. And they can also be lost. Sometimes they don't go through couriers that are very good or very careful. So it's a little bit of a taboo way of getting your fish. I mean, I've done it. I'm sure there's plenty of other people that have done it. But if you do get Malawi trout, I haven't seen any available since that ad on eBay. Then please let me know, mate, because I'm absolutely, I'd love one of them to, even if it's a tiny one, just to grow out with these Malawi hawks. So the Bucachromis, which I've got, which is growing nicely, although I've got a horrible feeling that that's going to be a female, which really isn't what I want. I wanted a display fish. I didn't want a female fish. I mean, they don't look too bad because they have still got the yellow accents on them, but it's not the catalogue fish that you see, is it? When it's a female, it's a little bit dulled down, which is why I got so many of the hawks, because I didn't want to end up in the same situation as I am with the Bucachromis now, where I've got what is potentially a female, and I've got that have been growing out, feeding, and that fish has been a lot of work, to be honest, because I've had to rehome it in so many different tanks, look after it, feed it, try and find it a nice place to live, and then I've ended up I've bet on black and landed on red pretty much with it. So I've got a better chance with these Malawi hawks. I'd be very, very surprised if all of them were female. That would be absolutely disastrous. But I think there's definitely going to be one or two in there. They've actually lost a bit of colour in the faces. So they did have signs of coloration in the faces and on the gills, but they all seem to have lost that, and I'm not too sure why. All my water parameters are pretty much bob on. 7.8 on the pH. It was at 8, but I've done a couple of water changes on this since, so it might need a little bit of buffer in it, just to top it back up to 8. That could be a reason why they might have coloured down. Maybe a bit of a pH fluctuation. Or it could even be what I'm feeding them. I'm not too sure, but either way, yeah, I love the Rostratus. One of my favourites. Do you know what I like about them is when they don't, even when they're not in a dominant state and they're not in full breeding dress, they still look beautiful. So they still have that all them metallic hues on the body, even if they've not, peaked and reached that full potential or become a dominant fish. They still look good. And they've got a similar, they remind me a little bit of the Malawi Gar in regards to the shape of their face, but that's why I like them, because they're quite unique looking. They get nice and big. They're not overly aggressive. I mean, the one I've got 2 upstairs, the biggest fish in the tank at the moment, well, this guy's not in there, and they show a little bit, they boss about a little bit, but they're not, they're not fish that will start kicking off and murdering other fish that you've got as well. Let's see. Right, so, I mean, how many tanks have you got, Steve? Have you got a few, or, I mean, how do you find them to manage? Because mine are getting a little bit on top of me at the moment. They never used to, just because I think it's because I've started, I've started nailing the gym a lot, so I'm spending a lot of time trying to lose weight, which means when I'm come back I'm knackered, and then having to do the fish tank maintenance after I've just come back from that feels like it's getting a lot, and I've been at work all day as well. I mean, I still love it. I wouldn't change it. But it's getting a bit claustrophobic upstairs. It's all things you've got to take into consideration every time you want to get another tank. Think about the maintenance. Have a good think if it's something that you really want to do. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, sometimes the tanks. I mean, the Mbuna tank for one, for me, I did want an Mbuna tank, and I did want to keep Mbunas, but I feel like the thought of having another tank to film, aside from the Peacock and Hat tank, that felt like it was a leading factor when it come to me purchasing and setting up that display. I always felt like, that people might get a little bit bored of just seeing the Peacock and Hat display. I really wanted Mbunas because I've kept them before and I enjoy keeping them. But I think that was the thing that really pushed me, over the edge to go out and buy that tank, because I was doing a lot of filming. Some of the videos were doing pretty good, and I felt like I just needed something a bit different to talk about, which is why it's another good thing about the Paludarium. It expands the channel and gets a few more people in the hobby to come and watch, aside from just African cichlids, because I do all sides of fish keeping. I mean, I've done saltwater tanks, I've done reef tanks, I've done saltwater predator tanks, I've done African cichlids, I've done planted tanks, paludariums, I've done vivariums, reptiles. I've dabbled in all of it, and I've gained a lot of skills in building those setups and how to do it, mostly through YouTube, over the past 15 years, just watching YouTube videos and watching other people do it. When I started this channel, it really never I really never intended it to be what it is today. It was more something. It was more something for me to do, to add on to the hobby, because I was bored, so that I could document the process, the progress of that tank build upstairs. Because I've done so many different tanks, which I've always looked back and thought, I really wish I'd filmed everything that I'd done on that and how I built it. But it was more for something for me to look back on, something that my daughter could watch in the future. That's why I set the whole channel up, for something to do. But I mean, thankfully, there's a few people out there that enjoyed watching it, and I'm grateful for that. 'Cause I mean, it's nearly on. I don't know the exact number, but I don't think we're far off 3K on subscribers, which is, it doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, it's massive, because I never thought it was going to take off and become as big as it is in 12 months, and it's. I feel like there's a little bit of pressure now to sort of keep the videos coming and stuff. So yeah, it's been fun. I've enjoyed doing it. The breeding system, I've always wanted to do that. So that wasn't, the pressure of getting videos out there. This cellar was one of the main reasons I took this house, because I've got all this room down here, and I planned to set this up. I wanted to do it. But that Mbuna display, I really think that was just sort of an impulse, a quick purchase, because I was feeling a bit of the Mbuna scene. I wanted to try and, expand the channel a bit and give people a little bit more to look at. And yeah, now I'm kind of regretting it a little bit, because it's taking up a lot of space in that room upstairs, and that paludarium it's huge, so it really is going to be a spectacle, and I want it to be a focal point of the room when people walk in, and I feel like that Mbuna tank obstructs it a little bit. I could try and get the Mbuna display down here, but what I don't want to do is just pile loads of tanks down here and turn it into, a rainforest, because of all the condensation and stuff. I don't know how this is going to look in winter, so I don't know how these tanks are going to affect this room in winter when it's colder and the water in the air condenses instead of staying buoyant. Is it going to make it too damp? I don't know. So again, it's all these things I'm warning you now, are stuff to factor in before you go and make the mistake. Eight tanks, Steve. Wow. 240. Oh, I'd love to see that, mate. I bet that's beautiful. South. Yeah. Do you know what? I get it. I get it with the South American, Central American cichlids. Really cool. They've got a lot of personality. They're not as colourful, but they're beautiful in a different way. I mean, you look at the Geophagus, for example. I just think that is a stunning fish. I'd love one. I'd love a tank with just Geophaguses in it. I absolutely love them. I like the sort of the neon striations they get along the body. I like the shape. They get big fins. There's actually a I don't know the name of it now. There's a cichlid from Madagascar. I don't know. It's called like a Dumba or something like that. But it's like a grey colour, and then they've got a red accent on the tail, and like a ghost white face. They look like they look like they're half marine. They're stunning fish. I'd absolutely love a tank just full of them. I think they'd look amazing. They get a nice size as well. So, yeah, I get what you're saying with that, mate. It's the Central South American fish. I think. Do you know what it is with them as well? Do you know what does it for me is? It's the scapes you can make. So you can start putting your bogwoods in and start and a couple of plants and really start creating stuff. You can't really use. You can, but I wouldn't advise using bogwood in an African cichlid tank. And the reason for that is, although it might look nice, bogwood leaches tannins, and it leaches them a lot. So it discolours your water for a start, which I don't think looks good in an African cichlid tank because it dulls your fish down. And then those tannins also lower your pH. So you're putting something in your tank that's going to have a negative effect on your water parameters for African cichlids. So that's why primarily you just use rocks. And it's the same thing with plants as well. I mean, they're not really suited for an African cichlid tank because they just dig them up. I mean, you can have some epiphytes. What epiphytes are the plants that root to a surface and not the substrate. So things like, Java ferns, Anubias, you can super glue them onto some of your rocks. But again, they don't do all that well in high pH. They'll survive, but they don't grow the same. Yeah, Starry Nights are really good. Really cool fish. Do you know what it is with them, right? Is I did think about getting them, but they I think what put me off them was when you look at them on Google, they look really nice, really, really smart looking fish. But then when I've actually seen them in person, some of the ones I've seen have been a little bit ugly, where they've not even got the white spots on them and stuff. So I think if you get a good example of them, they'd be a really nice fish to have in a tank. Do you know what as well? They don't need an awful lot of space, them fish. For the size they are, if you look at the guidance for how big a tank you should really be keeping them in, you can have them in quite I'm not saying I'm not recommending people go and put them in a small tank, but they'll quite happily live in a smaller system. You don't need something that's 6 foot to have them. Do you know another one of my favourites is it's actually one of the fish that got me started in the hobby is the Crebensis. Amazing fish, really social, shoaling around, dead interesting. They remind me a little bit of Mbuna, but at the same time they're getting the bright colours on the males, the big red bellies, but you can still have all that activity You can have the colour, so you get the activity levels of a African cichlid. You get sort of the middle ground with colour. You get the social behaviour, what you would get with mboonas in and out of rocks and things like that. But you can have plants and a scaped setup and everything, and bogwood and all sorts of stuff. And they breed like mad as well. They're really fun fish, Crebensis. So if you're quite new, you're thinking of starting a tank, you know, I would definitely recommend Crebensis to start a tank with. They're really fun fish, and they give you all aspects of the hobby. So you get the scaping, you can have fun building a tank, making something look natural. You get the breeding, they breed dead easy. You get the colour, you get the activity. So really good starter fish, that cribs. I'd always recommend them. Yeah, they are they're really interesting to watch, Steve. It's what sort of got everything started for me was them fish. I absolutely love watching them. Um, but now, I mean, even mentioning them is making me want to set up another tank as we speak. I've got two under here that I'm not doing anything with. Um, so I'm well aware that I've got a bit of a problem now. Definitely got an issue. I think there's quite a few of us that have got it. Um, but now I'm starting to reach my limit and start being a little bit more responsible now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to maybe move the Mboonas, finish off the Paludarium, and then I think I'm going to relax for a bit. But the Paludarium, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you're excited to watch that build, make sure you subscribe because that's going to be a series. So like I said earlier, you know, compressing these into a 30-second video or a 20-minute video is not realistic. I'm going to build this into a series so you can really see all the trials and tribulations of making a paludarium, the mistakes, things that go wrong, not just this is how you do it, this is how you do it perfect. We make mistakes. I made mistakes on this plumbing and I didn't film the mistakes that I made on it. And really, you know, I did that for the quality of the video, but from, you know, if we're being real about it, I should film the mistakes and put them on the video as well, because I mean I did it with the sump when I made mistakes with that, but I think it's important to show mistakes on videos because in fish keeping you're always going to make them, and sometimes they might not be pretty, and sometimes they can really put you off carrying on with the hobby or carrying on with your project. But the main thing is to find a solution to it, and it makes you better at doing it the next time. So yeah, we're going to do that with the paludarium. We're going to film all the problems, all the stuff that, you know, might hold you up, takes a long time, and then obviously we'll have the end product at the end. So I think we'll call it a night there for the live. First episode of the paludarium build will drop next Saturday. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe to the video. AH Aquatics. How do you support your rocks? Do you put them on the glass and sand? AH Aquatics. So I actually put them on the glass, believe it or not. I leave a little bit of sand underneath, but I mean, upstairs I can kind of get away with it because it's 10 mil. I think it's like 15 mil actually thick glass on the tank upstairs, and I don't pile them on top of one another. I just sort of lay them in a line, so it's not putting as much pressure on the glass. I have foam pads under all my glass as well. In these, I'm not using any sort of grid system. I never have with rocks, to be fair. I never did it with marine tanks as well when I've had massive systems, massive rock sculptures and shapes in there. I've always just done it straight on the glass, but I'll, with the marine tank, I'd put like an epoxy resin on the bottom just to stick them so they wouldn't slide around. And then you use like an epoxy cement to keep them all in place as well. I mean, have you had any bad experiences from not doing that? I know a lot of people say to do it to get some egg crate on the bottom, especially when you've got heavy rock sculptures in the tank. But in all honesty, I've never had well, touch wood, twice. I've never had a problem with the tanks being with the rocks being stationary. I think what it's good for is if you're moving your rocks about and if in case you drop one, then having that egg crate there can be a real lifesaver, really beneficial. But I don't know how effective it is if you're just keeping the rocks stationary. Oh, you've been in Urmston. I love it in there, mate. That's my local fish shop, that one. Absolutely mint. Spud, who runs it's a really sound guy as well. He's got some. I tell you what, he's got some really nice African cichlids, some of the best that I've seen, and I've travelled, quite a distance to certain places that sell African cichlids, and he has got some phenomenal fish if you first start in your tank. I don't. To be honest, I bought a few Mbunas off him recently, and then I've had some Mahaps off him as well. But it gets to a point where you only really want to have one of each hap in your tank or one of each colour strain of your peacock cichlids. And I've started to get the majority of them now. So unless I go in and I see one that's really out of this world, but yeah, I mean he gets them over. And I'll be honest with you, all the ones that I've had, he worms them as well. So really, really mint shop that for African cichlids. Yeah, if you've never kept him before, I mean, what are you thinking of starting off with? Are you going to go with Mbunas? Or are you going to go with peacocks and haps? What sort of tank are you thinking of setting up? Yeah, peacocks. Yeah. The peacocks are mint. They're a really good one to start with. A lot of people do start with Mbunas because they're more readily available, but I think people are better going with the peacocks first because Mbunas, there's a lot of different strains. There's a lot of different types of Mbuna. And if you don't do your research on them and you don't really know what you're buying, you can end up with a real problem in your tank. It's very easy to mistake which one that you're buying, and some of them are horrifically aggressive. So you've got to be really careful with Mbunas and what you're buying. Although they're the most readily available one, and 99% of the time they're the cheapest option out of the three as well, they are probably one of the more difficult ones to keep. So peacocks is a good choice. Bit of advice, if you do get them, when you're first starting off, only get males to begin with, because when you start putting females in, that can cause aggression. I mean, I think Urmston only sell primarily males anyway. But and then get the males different colours to begin with. And so when you're first starting off and you're getting a few fish, try and keep them all opposite colours until you build a good number and a good community of fish. Then you can start putting some that are a little bit more similar in there, because you've got more fish, they distract one another and it don't become so much of a problem. But when you're first setting a tank up and you're just getting a couple and you're building your numbers up, just make sure you're getting them all different colours, and then you're not going to have any issues with aggression early on, mate. Yeah, mixed and boony. You'll find that with peacocks as well, A lot. I've seen this on the last live. I feel like a lot of shops sort of neglect, in the UK anyway, I think they neglect the African cichlid side of it a little bit. And I think that they're less popular than other fish, because I think a lot of people go for nano fish and stuff that they can keep in smaller tanks. I think that's where the demand is. So I think that when it comes to African cichlids, I think a lot of shops overlook them, and I don't know if it's because they can't run them off the same sump because of water parameters, but I'd like to see a shop where you've got all of them separated into what species and what type they are, sexed fish, a place where it's not just giving you a mixed batch of amalgamations that have all crossbred. And OBs are the most readily available peacock cichlid that you can find. The reason for that is because people just smash them in a tank and they just breed, and they're all low quality, mixes of everything. So you've got to be really careful with what you're buying. Look for somewhere that's going to sell you some high quality. Urmston is definitely one of them. There's another one up in Wigan, Pier Aquatics. They're pretty good. They've got a good selection of African cichlids. They tend to separate them out so that they're not mixed. And then there's Bridgemere Garden Centre. That is a really good one. So if you go down to Bridgemere, they are going to sell them in smaller sizes, but they're relatively good with African cichlids as well. They separate them all out into species, and then they have a larger tank, like a display tank, where all the fish are for sale, but they'll give you sort of bigger fish in those tanks, so they'll give you 3-4 inch peacocks. They're not labelled and separated, they're in a mixed tank. But if you're looking for bigger fish, they've got some good ones in there. But I'd like to see it in more shops. I think a lot of shops, you see all these different fish separated, and then you just get a mixed African cichlid tank, and it's got everything in there. And I find that when you're like me and it's all you keep, it's quite irritating. And they're all these mixed tanks. A lot of the time, they're very low quality fish. It's like a tit box. We've got African cichlids here. We can tick the box. It's like it's no real effort's gone into it, and very few shops do it. So it's nice to see when places like Urmston are making an effort with it. Yeah, Ripples, that's the one. Ripples Water Life. I've got. I'll tell you what. There is the yellow OB that is in my tank upstairs. I got from Bridgemere, and when I got it, it was like a platinum white colour. When I got it in my tank, it coloured up, and it is one of the most stunning OB peacock cichlids I've ever seen. Really, really nice fish. I've had a blue dolphin from there, and then there is. I've had a good number from that shop. I can't remember exactly which ones I got from there. A couple of my sunshines were from there, and they coloured down, but I don't think it's the shop. I think it's there's something weird going on in my tank with yellow fish. Every time I put a yellow fish in there, no matter where it's from, they just colour down. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the yellow triggers one of the more aggressive fish to attack them, and then they colour down. But the yellow fish really don't do well in my tank. Yeah, I mean, filtration is the key, mate. It's what I say with African cichlids is always don't do enough, overcompensate. So just go over the top with it. Go over the top with your biological. If you're doing two filters, are you doing whether it's canisters or in tanks? Have one for biological, have one for mechanical, and then you can fill your filter up with some good biological filtration that's going to attack all the ammonias and nitrites. Don't go too heavy too quick as well. Don't get too many fish at once. Go slow, get 4, let it cycle, test your water, get some more, let it cycle, test your water till you've got something good going on. That's why I got the sump on that one upstairs, so I could cram as much biological filtration into it as I can with the moving bed filter and everything. Because my plan was to strategically overstock that tank. But now I'm leaning, because I'm sort of stepping back a bit from the peacock cichlids and getting more into my haps. I've put my foot on the brake, so to speak, because the haps are starting to grow quite big now. So what I don't want to do is put too many fish in there, and then these haps get massive and they've got nowhere to swim. Yeah, Benga Sunshine's a good Steve. Unfortunately, I can't get them to take off in my tank, mate. I've had about 3 in there that are all coloured down. I can't get yellow fish to do anything. If you're going to order them online, somewhere where I've had some really nice ones from is Sims Tropical Fish. They've always sent me really, really good quality fish. And then they've also Aquatics Tea Door as well. That's another really good one. So I've had, obviously, the only thing is when you get them posted, there is a chance that you're going to get DOAs, so fish that are dead on arrival. And it's happened a couple of times with me. And it's obviously it's not nice when you pull a dead fish out, but every time I have had dead fish with them, they have, if you take a picture of it and send it to them, they will reimburse you. They're more expensive, so you're going to spend more money on those fish to get them posted and delivered. So what you're probably better doing, if you're going to order them online, wait till your tank's cycled, where you can order 4 or 5 at the same time. You pay the same postage on all of them, and then you get them a little bit cheaper. But when they post fish, usually it works out a little bit more expensive. But I've always had really good quality fish from them. Yeah, Aquatics Tea Door, mate, it's good. They do photographed peacock cichlids as well. So you pay a premium. They take a photo of the exact fish that you're gonna get. So it's a good option if you're really targeting, specific quality. You don't want to take too much of a risk, but you're gonna pay a premium for it. And they're usually about 4 inches when you buy them. But have a look at Sims Tropical Fish, mate. They separate them into haps, peacocks. They've got some brilliant ones, especially haps. Yeah, do you know what, Stefano? I've seen that they're doing the guaranteed males on there as well. I mean, juiced fish. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether a fish is juiced or whether it's just becoming subdominant in your tank. I've had juiced fish. I've had fish that I've bought that look male, and then a couple of weeks later they're holding eggs when they've been in full male breeding dress a few weeks before. I've done a video of a similar issue I had in my tank. I've had a couple from Aquatics Tea Door, and thankfully I've not had any juice ones, and they have all held the colour relatively well. But I think it just depends where they're getting, because these shops, they have to get a bulk supply of them, and I would imagine they have multiple suppliers. And I think it's depends on where they're shipping them fish from, because the bulk suppliers, they're the ones that juice the fish, not the actual shops. So the shops will buy them in from the supplier. They're already juiced. So by the time it's going to take a few weeks for them hormones to come out of the fish. By the time when they're in store, they look male. You buy them, they bring them home. They stay in their male colours, and then after a few weeks, they just die off and wash out. But it happens abroad. It happens in the places where they're shipping these fish in from. They'll juice them because the colour sells. So, yeah, I mean, that's the problem with peacocks. Don't have it so much with haps, but peacocks, that is a problem with them. They juice those fish just to get the colour out of them. Yeah, it's really annoying, mate. Yeah, it's usually about 3 or 4 weeks when they die off, the colour on them. If you go back and watch one of my videos, I had a Apache that was bright blue, big white Apache stripe on it. 3 or 4 weeks, it went completely grey. And then about 6 weeks later, it was holding eggs and spitting fry. and I had a load of baby peacock cichlids swimming around my tank. So it does happen. That fish was actually from a place called Just Fins in Stoke, which is closed down now. It's no longer there, but it's the problem is when they're juiced. I've never had a juiced fish lose its colour and then regain it. It's like it does permanent damage to the fish. So as soon as they lose that coloration, they never really take off again. You can get a little bit out of them, but you've just got to be careful with sort of the juice thing, because it depends if you're putting fish. Sometimes you can have a really coloured up fish. If that's the dominant fish in the tank in the shop, and then you bring it home and put it into a brand new tank where there's other dominant fish in there, that can be a main reason why a fish drops its colour. Peacocks, they will only colour up when they feel dominant and somewhat and have a place in the pecking order in your tank. If you're bringing them from one place to another and they don't feel right and they don't establish a place in the hierarchy, they will drop the colour. So sometimes it's hard to tell with juicing. It's like this Malawi eye biter in this tank. When I bought him from the shop, he was really fired up, really coloured up. Big fish, thought he was going to be all right going into the big tank upstairs. I put him in that big tank. He just went grey. He looked like a female fish. And it took him about 4-5 weeks for him to establish himself in that tank and then really start getting his colour back. And now he's one of the most boisterous fish that I've got. So, yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes with juiced fish. Yeah, I'm in Mid Cheshire as well, mate. Well, I'm in Congleton. So I'm just sort of on the edge of Macclesfield and Wilmslow and Stoke. So it's very limited. Not so much for fish shops, for African cichlids. You have to do a bit of travelling if you want to go and get some decent ones. Yeah, if it's just gone grey with a dark stripe, I mean, the best way to tell is if you're struggling with coloration with female peacocks, the anal fin and the dorsal fin are usually a lot more rounded. So the males have like the flick and the sharp edge. The females have a much more rounded top fin and anal fin. So that's a good way to tell if it might be female or not. And you can also vent them as well. So if you flip them upside down, I mean, people say it's hard to do. It's not with peacocks, but females have two vents on underneath, and one is bigger than the other for egg laying. So that's a good way of telling if you've got a female peacock as well. If you think it's one that's been juiced and it's lost its colour, that's a good way of giving yourself 100% certainty on it. But yeah, juiced fish is a big topic. We'll have to do a video on that at some point, because there's telltale signs too, which I'm not going to go into now. But middleweight, yeah. Right, I think we're going to wrap that up for today. Thanks for jumping on, guys, commenting, getting involved. It's good to see. Like I said earlier, there's going to be a video dropping for the Paludarium build next week. So keep an eye out for that dropping. Thanks for everyone who's subscribed. If you're not subscribed, go and subscribe to the channel. I'll see everyone soon.